I strike up a candid conversation with the president and CEO of RCBC, Mr. Eugene Acevedo. He also launched a book recently entitled Never Stand Alone. I hope you take something from this episode. Thank you. Good afternoon, Sir Esa. Thank you so much for this honor of being able to interview you.
No, the honor is mine, Mike. Salamat
Yes.
kayo.
Yeah, salamat. So first off, I'd like to begin. I came across your book recently. Actually, I'm not done yet, but I've been scrolling with a few pages. First of all, what made you decide to write this book?
Well, Mike, I turned 60 recently, and planning ahead around October last year, I was thinking about what I was going to do to celebrate. Typically, people would close a ballroom or a big place to celebrate, have a band, no? But that's not me. I'm, as they would say in Cebuano, inot. I don't like spending too much, and I'm not that social, if you know what I mean. So instead of having a big celebration, I started thinking, and before I knew it, I started writing and realized that it was the right time to thank all those individuals and organizations who helped me uh, become what I am today. From the time I studied in Surigao till studying in San Carlos in Cebu, AIM, Citibank, and everywhere else. I've always had a group of people who mentored me, friends who took care of me. I don't think I'd be here if not for them. And I wanted to write to express my appreciation for what they've done for me. And many of those individuals received copies of my book with handwritten notes, including my teachers from grade school.
Wow, very sentimental.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
But why the title Never Stand Alone in
Um,
particular?
yeah. Few people have asked me that question, very few. But what it really means is I got very far because there were always people with me. I was never alone. Even at the worst or most trying parts of my career and my school days, there were always individuals who listened to me, made sure I was fine. At never at any point in my life did I feel I was alone. And I thought it made a huge difference. Plus the second thing is I don't want people to think that I'm a self-made man, that I got far because of my own efforts. I credit my team, my mentors, for all the great things that have happened to me. Hence the title.
Mhm. Okay. Delving more into your humble roots,
Mm.
what can you attribute to your success now? Was it the education primarily?
I think, Mike, it was a combination of many things. A certain there are paragraphs in the book that talked about how my father managed me or performance managed me when I was a kindergarten student. Every time I came home with a perfect score, which was basically almost daily, I think. I'd show it to my dad, and we'd hop on his motorcycle and go over to the store in our barrio to buy chippy or cheese curls. So it was like it was like he programmed me early on, maybe not intentionally, And after that, it was like I had to deliver excellent results because I got used to it. I think it started that way. It sounds corny, but yeah, I my performance management started with cheese curls and chippy. Um, and then my confidence built up over time. It uh, moved over to reading, student organizations, and so on. Um, but I was able to receive, or I was gifted opportunities by some individuals that allowed me to keep moving from where I started up to AIM, which I thought was a major breakthrough for me because it allowed me to move to the next breakthrough, which was Citibank. So it was like a series of breakthroughs, uh, part of which was driven by my performance orientation. But the breaks given to me were really because people opened doors for me.
Mm. So, since you were young, it was always instilled in you to be a performer, an achiever.
It it was
And you had many influences along the way as well.
correct, but it was not a you have to do well kind of uh, order. It was it was what people would call nowadays as gamified. It's like you do well, you get something. You do well, you get something. It started that way. It was not stressful at all. It was, yeah, it was never stressful right from the start, which made it unique, I think. I credit my father for it.
Uh, okay. And this is the first book you've written,
Yes,
or
indeed. Yes, indeed. I'm in the process of writing a second one, but it's gonna take a while. Um,
still delving into your life, or
Less. It's going to be about management lessons, leadership lessons, career development, mentoring, uh, advice, how to be successful, many, many other things, which uh, will be sourced from my LinkedIn posts. I've been actively writing on LinkedIn since October 27 last year. So that's over 200 original posts, which, Mike, I have to organize. But many of those posts have uh, more than 100,000 views, uh, more than 2,000 likes. So there seems to be interest in readers. And the more I look at it, I think I can use it as a basis for my next book because it's original material, or at least it's semi-original, based on topics that are interesting, for example, for young people, but based on a combination of what I remember as theory, but uh, more with experience over my
mm-mm.
now 37 years of banking.
Speaking of banking, you've been around a long time.
Yeah.
What can you say about the banking industry presently, given the
Mm.
rise of digitalization?
Oo.
Everything is nasa app na.
Mm-mm.
Everything is at the push of a button. So,
Oo.
uh, how
Yeah,
do you foresee it in the next 10 years, 20 years?
no, honestly, these are trying times. I remember 5, 6 years ago, when I was still in another bank, the the line we were using then was digitize or perish, or at least that was the threat written by management consultants. Simply because the fintechs were more agile, asset light, uh, not constrained by bureaucracy, and so on. But the good thing that happened was many of the banks uh, started behaving, or at least portions of those banks started behaving like fintech companies. Like in this bank, we have groups of individuals who even come from fintech backgrounds. So we are now competing with fintechs as if we are fintechs. Uh, and we realized later that what actually works even better is if banks work with all these small expert companies to take advantage of the existing customer base that we have and the data that we have. It turns out that the best way forward is cooperation between or collaboration between fintechs and banks. Uh, so, press what we're seeing currently is uh, significant collaboration. So, for example, with us, we're collaborating with, I can't even count how many they are, collaboration on AI, on data science, on robotics, on automating authentication of identities. Many, even chatbots. It's a long list, Mike. It's a very long list, uh, which also basically means that the fintechs have also realized that working with banks actually helps them. Because what's been happening is banks before did not have the same ideas, did not have the same uh, quickness. But the fintechs naman never had a big customer base that we had. All the data dealing with all these customers over decades. Now, when you put that together, it's a powerful, powerful combination. That is the state of the banking industry right now. So I think it's much better than what it was 6 years ago. There are some banks that are still less digital, but they're moving in the right direction. That's what I can say.
So, out of all the banks in the Philippines, would you say RCBC is up there in
I
the digitization?
Yeah, I'd like to be modest about this because there's always somebody better than you. We can say we're great in this country, but Mike, the comparison is not Philippines. Eh. The comparison is more regional, is more global because any of these players can come in and open something. The central bank's rules are quite liberal. They can come in anytime, buy the license of a rural bank, for example. In fact, a few have, I think six have done it already, and give us a run for our money. So we just have to keep running faster, running faster. It has made careers of bankers more exciting. It's a bit more stressful as well, especially for a 60-year-old. But I'm happy that I did this in my 50s. If I missed this, I would have regretted not seeing the rapid digital transformation of the banking industry. So I still count myself lucky.
Mm. What about some threats with technology like AI?
Yeah.
There are some tendencies of it being
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
scary.
Yeah,
How do
it's,
we keep a close eye on such?
Mike, the bigger threat is cybersecurity. Uh, uh, One of our biggest and fastest rising expense is cybersecurity. It's a kind of risk that uh, most CEOs, most bankers worry about um, because it's out there, and every day, every year, the the perpetrators become more sophisticated. The rules are there; they operate under no rules. Their technology becomes better and better. Um, that's my biggest worry. um, we embrace in this bank, we embrace AI. AI has been our favorite, data science and AI together. They've been our favorite tool for this bank since 2019. And as a result, it has made our salespeople much more productive, at least 30% better. Here, what happens is AI allows us to focus our efforts on a set of customers we identify to be uh, the most likely customers. There are AI models that allow us to generate that. There are AI models that uh, enable us to score customers from a credit standpoint. Um, we have 51 ways of tracking or predicting customer behavior, and those are all AI based. And those 51 ways of anticipating, you can call it anticipating or predicting customer behavior, uh, has made has allowed us to personalize our offerings to customers. So not everybody gets a parang shotgun blast of emails that people don't like. No? So before we send an email, we make the best guess as to which customers we're going to be sending it to, because there's higher probability that the customer needs and wants the product. Uh, so I love AI. I don't fear AI at all. And I would like to repeat what I read somewhere, which said uh, AI will not necessarily replace the banker. What will happen is bankers who use AI will replace bankers who don't. I think it's the same thing for the car industry, dealerships, etc. Anybody who decides not to use AI will be put at a significant disadvantage compared to those in the same industry that have embraced AI and are using AI to augment uh, the skills of their sales force,
Mm.
for example.
I understand there's a focus on more efficiency
Mm-mm,
and more emphasis on customer service.
mm-mm.
What else can we expect over the next few years?
Yeah, the studies from the West suggest that uh, the biggest part of the benefit will be on the sales side. It's like having a sales assistant. Uh, the next is on risk management, uh, in particular fraud detection. Uh, just to describe what happens right now, to track money laundering, for example, or anti-child pornography, to track movements of funds is difficult because you have to look at um, months of data and huge volume of data. So it's huge volume per uh, per day, and you have to look at over time. Uh, it is impossible for a person to do that. Even simple Excel programs, it's just difficult to do that. Uh, but artificial intelligence can go through all those data very quickly and print out or tell us or lists down all these things. So what we need to do, what our people need to do, is just go over each one. So it's a shorter list compared to, my God, hundreds of thousands of movements and customers. Um, that to us is very important because it's anti-crime. It allows us to. It's not, to me, just a matter of compliance. It's really also a matter of uh, civic responsibility, to make sure that all the money flows that go through us are responsible or clean flows. So that's That's another example. Uh, Maybe a sexier example is we are experimenting with Gen AI to suggest scripts for our salespeople. So it's not just enough to tell our salespeople, these are the customers you need to call. What we have now is a script. So, for example, you sit in Talamban. We have a branch there. Every morning, uh, hopefully very soon, we will reach to that level where you get a script that says, "Call, uh, call Mike and tell Mike and say this. Mike, we noticed that blah 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 blah. You might want to consider." So it's uh, there's a real script to follow, which already evaluates your context, your last purchase, your set behavior, and the salesperson doesn't have to read as is because then it wouldn't sound natural. But the salesperson can look at the script and adapt his or her way of talking. You can say na, my God, at a certain point, maybe what will happen is you put a voice translator and actually say things, no, like Mike, you may want to, but it's tough, no, because at a certain point there are certain customers, especially the affluent ones or the high net worth ones, where face to face carries a significant premium. We're still human beings, and you want that human
Yeah,
touch.
that
The
personal
script,
touch.
but the script helps you deliver the message better. The script is just a suggestion. You can, I hate to use this word, but you can improvise. It's like an improvisation exercise where we're now testing this, and that's the next step. It's exciting.
Yeah, sure is. But delving more into culture,
Mm,
generational
mm,
changes, what can you say about the Facebook, TikTok generation we live in? It's very fast paced now, but
mm,
there are also a lot of downsides because,
mm,
like, anyone can post anything. So,
yeah.
and people are so easily triggered now, or they have
Mm,
really short attention spans. So,
mm,
how can we address such dangers in where
yeah.
the world is going? Mm,
Well, I have to tell you that there were false Facebook uh, accounts of mine. No, it was somebody else posing to be me. So those things are annoying, but we're able to address them. No, uh, what I like to think about all those that you mentioned is I see the good in them. Uh, Facebook, for example, is a great source of feedback. Not the feedback that makes you good, feel good. It's the feedback that makes you feel terrible, but you can only be terrible for a short period of time because those feedback are exactly the kind of feedback we can use to improve our service. Not everybody is uh, civil or charitable when they deliver their messages. They can be quite brutal, but just the same. No, if we see bad things written about our products, to me, it's a perfect opportunity to fix it. And by and large, I think many of the things of those things that we see on social media, once we fix, then you know people move on. People move on. I I'd like to think of it along those lines, and I get feedback. People send me letters on LinkedIn, Facebook, They can even guess my email address. Whenever I get those, I get maybe two or three a week. I immediately address them. It's an opportunity for me to check the tires, to check the engine without having to get out of my office. And whenever I see it, I take them very seriously. So to me, in short, it's a perfect opportunity to see feedback. We also get wonderful feedback. So, for example, about our credit cards, there are customers who defend us. Whenever somebody complains or whenever somebody asks a question, we have customer advocates who act like RCBC employees and who make suggestions and so on. So it's interesting. It's We just have to make sure we're present so that we can act. Another way of looking at social media is it's a great opportunity for us to put our story or share our story because we have, I think, a lot of good stories to tell, and it gives us the venue to reach a very wide audience in a very efficient way without paying for it. Um, that's the other good thing about that. So it's really ability to reach customers and ability to see detailed feedback that's actionable.
But would you say values somehow have shifted
Mm.
with the generation now?
Mike, the first time I heard that, I tried to
Well, it's
recall
a
the time
double-edged
when,
sword.
in the 80s, when the old people would say the same thing about us. So every decade or every few years, the old guys would say, "Oh, these young people, they're different, etc." So I'm used to the facts. Whenever somebody complains, I say, "Wait a minute, guys. When we were young, the older ones would complain about us. Um, it's They grew differently. Um, the way I see it, it's a perfect opportunity. To me, it's an opportunity. We have a different set of customers. They want their products delivered to them differently. So the first bank or the first companies that make the adjustment get the loyalty of these customers. So I'm not sure, honestly, if we got it right, but we've been making adjustments for exactly this younger generation because you know the old tricks in the book will not work for them. So we have to make those adjustments. Now, the other thing though that I'm happy about is the new generation is much more sensitive to environmental issues. Uh, and that is a huge advocacy for us. So, focus on renewable energy, saying that we have stopped support for coal power plants. Um, I think those are principles that go very well when you reach the current young generations, the current audience. So I wouldn't consider it a problem. I consider it more an opportunity to personalize and refocus our approach because I was young once, and I think the old ones, when I was young, had similar thoughts about my generation.
There's always something to say.
Yeah, there's always something. There's always something different.
Okay. But what are some leadership advice you can impart to this generation now?
Oh, you probably heard that I volunteered to mentor 10 individuals. Mike, they're now 30, and I've been spending a significant amount of my free time meeting these young people. And whenever I meet them, we always go back to a few things. The first thing is the first question I ask, not always said immediately, but it's in my head, especially if certain issues suggest that the question might be relevant. Is the question is, do you have a close friend at work, or who do you have lunch with? Uh, this new generation that's focused on their computers have less time socializing, and that can have adverse consequences to the engagement in companies. And I've sensed it among my mentees. So I keep reminding them that it is not enough to be good individually. You have to have the ability to work well with other people. Uh, there's this tendency, especially as we have a lot of virtual assistants and people working from home, uh, they have to figure out how to work efficiently or effectively with other colleagues. Uh, and then my next question is always related to, are you leading small teams? It's step by step, no? So that's a social engagement is the first. Uh, the second point I always ask has to do with what are they doing to develop themselves. Um, my 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 canned advice is, if you want to be a leader in any institution or in any organization, you have to be an expert in at least three categories. I call it triple threat. If you're a celebrity, can you act? Can you sing? Can you dance? Plus a few other things. So, well, I copied this from showbiz. In banking, you can also be a triple threat. You have strong sales skills, strong credit skills, and strong operation skills, plus a few other things. My worry is that a lot of young people have specialized very early and are not learning new things. You cannot be a leader if you only know one thing. Uh, it's not simply about knowing a lot of things. It is also because as you move from one group to another, you build your network. Uh, I started in treasury. I have a lot of friends in treasury. Then I moved to other parts of the bank. Then I gained a lot of friends there. And I moved to another part. Then I gained a lot of friends there. For example, uh, when I try to do projects later, when I need to accomplish something difficult, I will be relying on uh, all these individuals, my friends, collaborating with me. So it it allows me to build a strong network as well. Um, that is what I always advise young people who aspire for leadership positions.
So there's emphasis on being well balanced,
Absolutely,
multidimensional. You can't just
absolutely,
be too focused on one aspect.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Um, delving into your career, what would you say was the best time of your life,
Oh,
or that breakthrough moment where you said, "Oh, I've made it, or I've come this far."
uh, the thing is, when I feel like I was close to saying something like that, something hits me. Some new challenge hits me. So I've never really gone there. Uh, I think of my work as a series of challenges. Uh, and in every challenge, I'm able to face certain opportunities. I learned new things. I became better as a banker. Um, I have many things to celebrate, absolutely. But the part, frankly, that feels good is seeing my mentors do better. Uh, I can talk about the great deals I've done, the ones that made so much money for the institution I worked for. Uh, they gave me a thrill. I can list down all of them, but they gave me thrills. But the first time my mentee became a vice president, or my mentees became managing directors and so on, the feeling was much better. It was not that I reached very far. It was that it was more that young people that I helped start their careers well, have gone so far. Uh, that is giving me that to me is a much bigger source of happiness. Uh, so I would say it's my journey in mentoring that has given more meaning in my life. Maybe the second source of satisfaction to me has been the success of RCBC over the last 5 years. So in this bank, we've formed a very solid uh, team of leaders who are experts in various fields. But what is different is that it's a very strong team that works closely together, that helps each other, that understands what each other's problems are. And that has allowed us to play hard and grow faster than everybody else. It's like a well practiced basketball team with significant assists, and each one that has specific assignments is doing better than the other teams. To me, the formation of RCBC's leadership team, uh, I think, is one of the highlights of my career.
Moving forward, what is the general vision for RCBC and what sets you apart from the others?
Moving forward, we will have to continue our obsession with customer experience and customer service. You may have heard that the bank scored the highest in the Inquirer survey for customer service. Our score was 8.57, and the next bank was 8.05. And I stepped back and I did not know that there was such a survey until it came out. When I stepped back, I asked myself, what did we do to deserve it? And then when I listed down the things that we did, I came up with a dozen things that we were taking very seriously, which we thought was really needed to make sure our customers have a better time with us compared to when they're visiting the other banks. No, that was really the intention. It was not to win awards, but it uh, it was great for morale. It was great for morale because it was a result of uh, thousands of Filipinos being interviewed. It was not one of those surveys where it's small and unreliable. This was really the man on the street or the women in wherever locations uh, saying that they preferred our service. So moving forward, Mike, customer experience is going to be the biggest differentiator for the bank. We will make sure that uh, the call centers pick up the phones. It's not always perfect, but they do. We make sure that things that are difficult uh, will be made easier using the use of a mobile app. We're doing certain things, like simple things like when you convert a straight purchase, credit card purchase, into installment. The old way of doing it, Mike, would have been to call, and you know the problem with call centers, right? Uh, People hate
Yeah.
calling
Takes a
bank
while.
lines. So we we were the first local bank to put it in a mobile app so that in 3 clicks, they can our customers can do such conversions from straight to installment,
User friendly.
and it sold like hotcakes. It sold like hotcakes. We've done at least half a dozen of those types of changes that make it easy for our customers to grab their phone and do something and not be stressed about calling. Another is uh, this product called Payday Now. We're the first bank that has done it in this scale. What happens is our payroll accounts uh, who want to advance 30-40% of their salary. In the past, they would have to go to a branch and apply, or they go to their friendly loan shark who or money lender, and as you can imagine, you know already, right? The borrowing cost is in high percentages in terms of interest rate. But with us, if they're already a registered payroll account, uh, there's about 200,000 of them now. All they need to do is, if they have our mobile app, they can just click a few things, choose how much they borrow, and so on. And in over a minute, they can make that advance based on our mobile app. So we're looking at all those, as the industry would call, pain points, and address them one by one, one by one. Uh, so that, if you add all these new things that we put in, the banking experience is much, much more delightful. So that's really the direction that we're taking. From a strategic point of view, our focus continues to be SME and consumer loans. Uh, our SME book is growing very fast. Our focus is more provincial. Our credit card portfolio is the fastest growing portfolio in the market. It's anywhere from 47 to 52% growth year on year in terms of spending. Our auto loan portfolio and our
Mm.
home loan portfolio are growing at a nice double digit. So it's um, we are putting most of our resources behind those faster growing product groups. But then you'd notice that these faster growing product groups are really more retail than anything. They're more retail. And in a retail customer base, customer service is even more important because people talk. If they're not happy, they put it on Facebook uh, or they tell their friends about it. And bad news travels fast, as you know.
Yeah. One
So it's
post can go
yeah, so it's
viral.
it's more and more we're going to be less corporate and more retail and consumer. But it's going to also be much more based on customer experience. And usually when we say customer experience, it almost always means that the solution we use has the 3 Ds. The design is changed. It's usually digital. And to personalize, we will be using data science and artificial intelligence to boost and improve the experience, including cutting the turnaround time to
Mm.
a much less near instantaneous delivery. It's exciting. It's exciting.
Okay. Moving on to a slightly different subject.
Mm-mm.
What is your management style and how do you resolve conflict among
Okay.
those under you, considering, of course, human nature sometimes
Mm.
can be very complex?
Yeah, it's my style is very collegial. Uh, Whenever issues are discussed, uh, it's a free exchange of opinions. Even the younger ones can say, I want them to be able to say their opinions without being bullied or or without being afraid. Uh, to me, psychological safety is very important. There obviously is a limit, but uh, I like getting opinions about the issues at hand. But at the same time, my leadership style is very data driven. When we talk about certain things, at a certain point, I will ask, let's check the data. Let's see what it says. Uh, when we see the data, oftentimes both of us are wrong or nobody's right. But when we see that we're wrong, Mike, then we're even happier because then it proves that existing banking practices are wrong, and we've discovered quite a number of that. So it's collegial and data driven. The third thing is I like several of my group heads to get together to collaborate on projects and issues. To me, uh, that alone avoids conflict because if they're used to dealing with issues every day, and I have those meetings several times in a week. For example, we want to do more payroll. How do we do it? So I invite 6 group heads who have something to do with the payroll solution. So we brainstorm, then we fix the problem. Then if it's another problem, I choose another group to brainstorm again. The opportunity to work closely together with your colleagues breaks down silos. So it's no longer my turf, your turf. Uh, there's less feeling of my uh, my kingdom. There's no such thing. There's just one team. And if you have a situation like that, there's much less chance of conflict. Much less chance of conflict. Uh, Nobody has asked me that question before, but yeah, that would be my answer. If people are used to teasing each other, joking with each other while brainstorming, um, then the work environment is much safer.
I imagine you're very busy, but how do you find time to balance work, family life, of course, work-life balance?
Okay, uh, I'm an empty nester, Mike. Uh, my kids are they left college. Uh, the last one left college uh, five, four, three, three almost 4 years ago. So they're not home. I have cats. They're snobbish, but they're not demanding. Um, I also do not play golf, which gives me one day in a week extra, or maybe at
Yeah,
least almost a day
takes up
extra.
time, golf.
Uh, but I also delegate. I also delegate. I To me, succession is an obligation of a leader, and the best way to train leaders is to give them authority. Obviously, I'm close by. I watch. They might make mistakes. I don't make a big deal out of it, but it's important for me to train leaders, and part of training them is delegation. Maybe maybe the next thing I'm going to share is I follow the Eisenhower matrix, whenever I receive something, I decide, do I do it right now? Can I do it later? Can I delegate it to somebody? Or can I simply delete and ignore it? I always follow that process so that what I work on is really something that's extremely urgent. Um, it has worked for me.
Okay, given your long career, I know you worked for a time outside the country. How helpful was your time working abroad in shaping who you are now?
Oh, uh, in the Philippines, there are luxuries that are not present abroad. Here we have, it's easy to get help. Uh, Everybody's here. Uh, it's safer. Uh, my friends are here. If I need anything, I always know who to call. During my first assignment in Hong Kong, I was basically alone. I had my friends, a small group, but I had to take care of many other things. I had to deal with uh, regulatory authority from scratch. Uh, there are certain product groups where the level of sophistication is much higher. So I needed to quickly accelerate my learning. The curve was very sharp to reach that level. When the global financial crisis hit us in 2008, 2009 to 2010, the Philippines was safe. There's very little going on here. But I was in Hong Kong managing the trading room and seeing withdrawals upon withdrawals upon withdrawals and being extremely stressed. So there were certain things that certain crises and issues that I learned moving around uh, various countries for Citibank, where I worked at. Um, so it kind of accelerates the learning process. People say, uh, when you're comfortable, you stop learning. I tell you, a foreign assignment is a position of discomfort. Discomfort with family, discomfort with where to buy groceries, discomfort with managing work life balance, discomfort with bonding with a new set of colleagues or your own set of staff. It's like starting all over again. And you learn new things. You get to sharpen certain skills. It's something that I would recommend to young people.
Mm. Okay, I read from your book you spent time as a physics teacher.
Yes, yes.
Uh, has that also shaped where you are now? Has it helped you in the banking world?
I think so. Um, I wasn't I wasn't that good a speaker when even when I was in San Carlos. I was a student leader, but my speeches were unimpressive. But as a teacher, being in front of the class, talking to them a few hours every day, it it practices your speaking skills, your ability to capture their imagination. I think my public speaking skills improved as a teacher. The second part, obviously, is I got better in the discipline, and uh, in my job at Citibank, it was mostly for a long time. It was very quantitative, and the quantitative practice uh, before I became a banker was very useful later on. Uh, I think those things. Plus, uh, I met I met new friends, and I'm still in touch with them. Now it helps because I'm able to hire physics majors from UP and San Carlos, because my friends would ask me. The funny thing, Mike, is I get invited during physics graduation or during acquaintance or uh, activities where the faculty would want to tell potential physics students about what opportunities are available for physics majors. And they'll say, look at Eugene. He was a physics major. He's now a banker. So then they invite me to talk about my journey. And as a result, the physics majors think, oh, there are many more opportunities I never knew existed. So that's another one of the benefits.
Mm, okay. Moving on, how do you foresee the Philippine economy? We came from a pandemic.
Mm.
What what's the trend now?
Well, this morning, the central bank governor was talking about interest rates possibly coming down starting August, which is good. So I think what will happen moving forward is we'd be able to control inflation. Interest rate will start coming down to a better level that will be more friendly to borrowers, especially SME. And then we can sustain our economic growth. Um, the good thing about our economic growth rate is it is at a number that expands the Filipino middle class, which will mean more motorcycles, more cars, more consumption, more demand for quality education. It expands the demand pie. So businesses have a better chance at succeeding. Uh, so I remain optimistic, not because I'm naturally optimistic. It's really because the data suggests that we should all be optimistic.
Mm. Okay, going back to the pandemic,
Mm.
since we went through about 2 to 3 years of it, how
Oh,
did
oh.
you stay afloat during
Mm.
those very trying times?
The idea was first we needed to make sure our people were safe. So we there was no real uh, book on how to prepare. No, we did our preparations, but we still learned a lot of new things. The second group that we needed to protect was our customer base. We immediately spoke to them, asking them, "What do you need to do if your cash flows are insufficient? We are willing to extend your loans or restructure." See, the first part was defensive, making sure our customers and our own people were safe. But the more exciting part of that was we saw that since people were not leaving their homes, this was the perfect opportunity to accelerate our digital transformation exercise. So instead of having a certain plan that went over 3 years, we accelerated everything within a year to a little over a year because the opportunity was there. You can say that the pandemic uh, accelerated the digital transformation of Philippine banks. That's one. The second thing was we actually still kept growing through the pandemic. Uh, what we decided was during a crisis, you don't step back and retreat. There still are some sectors that remain safe that you can aggressively go after. Case in point, we thought that our own depositors, especially because we know their deposit levels, their record over time. We thought that our depositors were a low risk set of customers to continue to serve, and we accelerated that process. So we kept growing. We kept growing, but in those sectors that we identified to be safe. Uh, Having grown in a foreign bank and in the treasury group in particular, during a crisis, we're always asked, where's the opportunity? Where's the opportunity? And that discipline is still with me. So in every crisis, I always, after I make sure that people, customers, and whatever else are safe, I go off after those opportunities that are presented. So the idea is not to float, but rather to thrive during a crisis.
In your personal career, I'm sure you've had downsides, failures,
Mm-mm,
setbacks.
mm-mm,
What are some best ways to overcome failures that can be very demoralizing?
mm. Rise up and do even better. The best revenge is looking good in terms of not physically, but making your career look better than what maybe your detractors think. But less than that, the more practical matter during times when during setbacks where I decided I had to leave the institution I was working for, I spent every morning in the gym. I was healthiest in between jobs. Uh, I I sometimes wish I had the same kind of state of health when I was, as my mother would say, unemployed for those 2 3 months. When you change jobs, kasi there's a what they call a gardening period. You cannot just shift. Those gardening periods gave me the perfect chance to, in the morning, take care of my body, in the afternoon, be with my friends, and that was those were happy moments. So so even if things did not work out in certain jobs, um, there were still people who never stand alone, took care of me, and I made sure when I wrote the book that I appreciated the time that they spent with me when they thought I was down. I found out who my true friends were when I was down. But you know, I always say as well, and some other people have said this: failure is temporary. You know, it's you just keep moving on, learn from your mistakes. Even if you do well, you still need to step back and think, what could I have done better? So to me, we do post-mortem analysis even if we do well. I think some basketball teams do that. Even if they won, they they get together and say, what parts did we miss? What parts can we do better? Uh, every journey, every experience is a learning exercise. Good or bad, they should be a learning exercise. It's wrong to say that only the bad ones give you lessons. The good ones also give you lessons. And I think I should write about that in my next LinkedIn post.
Okay. We're both Cebuano. We
Mm,
trace our roots in
mm.
Cebu, and it makes me proud to see a
Oh,
Cebuano
thank you,
rise
Mike.
up to be a president of a national bank. But given all the success you've
Mm.
had, how did you manage to stay humble all these years?
Oh, I got older. Uh, when you grow older, you every decade you lose more and more of that level of negative confidence, if I call it that. It's easy to when you're young, when you're in your 30s or even 20s, all you think about, all I thought about was doing very well to get far. So it was like me thinking of me. When I got to my 40s, I was thinking more about my family. When I got to my 50s, even earlier, I started thinking about the young people I was mentoring. Taking care of them meant that they were more important. My family and my mentees were more important than I was. And then later on, when you are able to take on positions of responsibility in universities, I'm with 3 schools, making sure that young people are better prepared for society. Once you take on those responsibilities, you more and more understand that they are more important than you are. Uh, then that alone changes your outlook in life. It's it's not about you. It's not about me. It's about younger ones, and we have to help them build better careers.
Mm,
And then maybe teach them modesty.
modesty, humility, modesty.
Yeah.
Okay. What message can you impart to different businessmen in
Mm.
the different industries
Mm-mm.
around the Philippines? Is it, of course, it's a good time to invest now, but what can you impart to them?
Oh, it's I just thought about it now that since you asked, it's no, there was a time when Inquirer asked me, what is your best investment? And then for 100,000. And I said, invest in yourself. Uh, buy a gym membership, learn something new. That time I learned how to play the saxophone. I stopped and I forgot about it, but I did at some point. It makes you a better person. So I will follow that. The best investment that any businessman can make is on himself and his leadership team and his people. It's it's as leaders, it's our obligation to make sure that the people working for us uh, will be in a better position to take care of their families, and that will mean training them to become more successful, training them to take on uh, more senior responsibilities. Um, so the message I would make is, or I would give is, put investing in your people a priority. Put it in your higher level of priority. Don't just think of
Mm-mm,
business or investing in businesses. Think of investing in the people that you have, because as you expand to have more branches, as you go through issues and risks in the future, you will be relying on your leaders and the leaders after them to move your company forward. So you will never go wrong with investing in your people.
mm. Okay, delving into a different side. What are your spiritual and religious views? Do you believe there's an afterlife? And do the things we do on this earth matter after we pass on?
I usually avoid talking about religion, but I'm a big fan of how religious organizations have taken responsibility over the education of the youth in our country. I think uh, one of the best things anyone can do from the point of view of religion is to support uh, those religious orders who are very serious with their education advocacy. Um, I don't know what we would be or how we would be if the Jesuits, the Sasal brothers, the SVD fathers were not here to make us all better prepared. And my humble contribution to that effort is being part of their board of trustees seriously and diligently looking for ways to improve educational opportunities for young people in the country. To me, I would put that as uh, my biggest contribution, or the contribution I value the most. And I'm also doubly delighted that uh, I'm able to work with the religious orders in helping them achieve their mission of quality education.
Okay. On a lighter note, you just turned 60.
Yes.
What are some lifestyle advice you can give? Of course, staying active,
Yeah,
exercise,
yeah.
diet.
Mm.
Do you have a regimen?
8 hours, Mike. 8 hours. You're still young. You're probably often abusing your body, or because you have a baby, you don't sleep as much. But sleep. I never valued this sleep as much until I crossed into the 50s. I've always insisted on 8 hours. The other thing is, I like saying this in jest, but peace to me is more important than happiness. Uh, I used to think that wishing world peace was corny, but now when I was approaching 60, I was like, I want some peace and quiet. Somebody wants to argue with me, or there's an issue. I'm like, you know, uh, I don't need the stress. There are ways to compromise, understand each other, have good dialogue, peace, peace.
Peace.
Uh, so sleep and peace. Those are the two things that
Okay.
are far, far high, are much, much higher in priority compared to where I was when I was younger. Not the, probably not the answers that you expected.
Okay. I just became a father recently. What
Mm.
are some parenting advice you would give, perhaps to me, or some family approach?
Oh man, just love your kids. Just love your kids. Uh, they'll get into problems in the future, but you just have to love your kids. Never forget that. You'll think you'll be demanding of academic excellence, etc. I was. When you do that, you forget that your priority is to love your kids. That has to be high, then everything else will follow. If they fail, remember that your first duty is to love your kids, and then encourage them to move up and try again. Um, Mike, when I was talking about the book with some people, they said, "Oh, an 11-year-old read your book. Many kids read my book." And one of them told his mom, "Mom, uh, Esa said that it's okay to fail as long as I work hard and just try again." Uh, that would be my advice, Mike. Uh, it is more important. Achieving is less important. What is more important is that they try their best.
We live in a world of so much uncertainty. What would you, what's a parting message you would want to impart to whoever's watching this, given all the trials that humanity faces? How do we stay strong in moving on?
I would go back to my formula for a crisis. When there's so much uncertainty, read about it, understand it, and if there are certain things you need to protect yourself against, make sure you stay protected. But never forget that with uncertainty comes opportunities. And you should never forget that. With uncertainty, with risk is uncertainty. With uncertainty comes significant opportunity, sometimes once in a lifetime. And you just have to make sure you take advantage of those and don't miss them.
Okay, so I think we covered a lot. Thank you so much for the wonderful insights. I certainly learned a lot from you today. And I look forward to going over your book many times over.
Thank you so
So,
much, Mike. I also appreciate this, and thank you for inviting me to to this podcast. It's to me it's less a podcast, it's more a conversation among a conversation between two Cebuanos. And uh, I also learned certain things, new ways of looking at things because of the questions you asked. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Perhaps we can show your book also
Okay.
before. Please check out this book by Sir Esa. You'll learn a lot. Never stand alone. Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike.